Thank you. I'm so happy that APEC News Network has taken up this very important topic. As we know that startups have never been more important, I would say, than in the last 5 to 10 years. Startup is an idea whose time has come. So while DST has been working on it for nearly 50 years now, the progress has been slow. But in the last 5 years, DST has created as many or more incubators and supported more startups in the last 5 years than in the previous 50. And this has nothing really so much to do about DST as about the culture which has sprung in the last 5 years. The very quickly give you a sense of where we are in terms of in the startup support for startup from the government as well as other private sector. Right now, DST supports about 140 technology incubators across the country. These have about 3,500 technology startups. We did a very quick third party analysis of what these startups have been doing. A whole lot of them, I would say about 50%, are in digital space. So they create algorithms, they create software, they create apps for different applications. They provide services which are based on digital means. And about other 50% would be related to even hardware. It's been a little bit slow going on the hardware front. As we know, there are many constraints or have been historically. So this third party analysis actually showed something very important, that in the last 5 years, these startups, they have created about 27,000 crore rupees of new wealth, and they have created more than 60,000 direct jobs. This is before they graduated from the incubators, before they became unicorns or whatever kind of corn that you call them at different levels. So certainly, this is a very positive message, and simply means that we are now totally ready. Our markets are ready. Our different systems are in place in order for startups to succeed in an unprecedented way. Now, I talk to these startups quite a bit in different fora, in different places, sometimes one to one, and there are many insights which I got talking to these people. In particular, what happens in the journey of a typical startup. So, a startup is a very unique entity. It's very unique because it actually straddles across the interface of knowledge system. This knowledge system, what I mean by that, is that its back end is embedded in knowledge. Often it may be embedded in some like IIT somewhere. Basically, it starts on ideas, it starts on knowledge, but the other end of it is firmly connected with the market and the market realities. Now, these are very different worlds. So when we look at what happens, it's like a chain. So innovation, unlike invention, is actually a chain, and need to strengthen every part of that chain because the strength of a chain is only as good as its weakest link. So considering that, we put in a new program in place 5 years ago. It's called Nidhi. Um, it's an acronym. So who remembers the full form? But anyhow, it's something good. It's something related to innovations and startups. Nidhi program, basically, we recognized the fact that we need to empower people who are on this journey, which, like I said, starts from ideas, which starts from knowledge. So they need to be trained. There has to be mentorship. There has to be, understanding of the market, which is first and foremost very important, because I've seen people with very good ideas, but they just did not pay attention to their market, not as much attention to their customers, the psychological profile of these customers, and the macro realities of the market and their competitors, all that space. And this is usual because a whole lot of young people, they're coming out of colleges, they may have couple of years of experience, and so on. So they, while they are very good at ideas, they are very excited, they have lots of energy to roll up their sleeves. They have often not actually worked with people who understand market much better than they do. This is also about a diversity. This is about the diversity of these teams. So it is often not sufficient for these people who start a startup to have all the information which is required. I often call this KYC, like in banks, know your customer, KYM, know your markets, and in fact, most important thing is KYP, which is to know your problem. So very clear definition of what is the problem, what is the need that we need to address, who are the takers of that need, what is the size of that market, what is it that people are looking for in that solution, what are the technological parameters, what is the price level, what are the plans for startup. So all of these services actually need to be provided to entrepreneurs, to people who drive a startup. Now, going forward, even before one jumps into a startup, it's good actually to have a very good prototype so that it can be showcased in those cases where a prototype becomes possible. And for that, there's a special grant of 10 lakhs. That is basically to decide whether to go ahead with a startup or not to go ahead with that startup. Once you know a startup is formed, then one can get up to 1 crore of seed grant for taking the business forward. What we also found that every rupee that DST spent in the grant is matched by, on an average, 11.5 rupees of external funding. So what that means is that this first rupee of the government, it gives extra push, it gives extra confidence in what people are planning to undertake. At the same time, many people require a fellowship or something to keep them eating while they are at it, so that there are also fellowships and basically, business plans, networking, all of that. This is the role of a good incubator. Not everybody is equally successful in delivering that role, and we want to make sure that it's not just about seed grant. One just can't give seed grant and forget all about it. Its whole lot is about actually accessing that knowledge and information which would make it successful. And finally, I may say it's also about the mindset of people who are working on a startup, because, like I said, one has to understand the business realities, and that's often the hardest part for a person driving the startup. Because, like I said, often many of these people you would describe as geeks, or I don't know for by whatever name. The interface between, let's say, an MBA and a geek, it poses special challenges. At the same time, when it comes to scale up or exit options, there's another point where a whole lot of us fail. That's because the exit options in India, unlike, let's say, in Silicon Valley, are more limited. Oftentimes people say, well, I will do scale up myself. It's not only about intellectual property that one can sell to a bigger company, because those companies may not be there, which is why it's very important that these startups, they get an early direction, an early sense of purpose, and that could be done by hand holding with a larger company which clearly sees their business needs. It could be a government entity, and we know that a whole lot of that is now happening or start to happen in defense. It is happening in space. So there are a whole lot of requirements which were satisfied in-house, whether it is ISRO, DRDO, what have you. They have become more proactive because of the government policies. And so, if we were to clearly define what is the product and technology that we need, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, that gives a very clear definition of the product and technology that we need. And so, that clarity of purpose actually does wonders. And a whole lot of that is happening. I'll just give you an example about some of the government policies and sectors which are being impacted, um, as far as the business of startups is concerned. Let me just give you an example which is closer home to DST. um, Now, one of the things DST does is responsible as a national agency for surveying and mapping. Survey of India is an organization which is 250 years old, actually 253 years old. It's so old we have all forgotten about it. Now, of course, that they were using old technology, pulling chains, theodolite. Now, in last couple of years, we have to fly drones, collect all the digital data, and build applications on it. The hitch was that for many decades, maybe a century, doing surveying and mapping for anything, whether for infrastructure, whether for services, for planning, for development, for governance, all of that required very tedious approvals. And these tedious approvals, they go through many different levels: home, defense, DST, survey, what have you. And typically, it took 6 to 8 months to be able to undertake any survey. And now, how do they translate into impact on economy is enormous, because any big infrastructure project from railroad to road will get delayed by 6 months. You can imagine the overall impact that the economy would suffer on account of that. So this is about policies. We issued new guidelines backed up by a policy couple of months ago, which removed in one stroke every approval process. And what that means is, if you want to do survey, mapping, drone, LiDAR, what have you, digital data, you don't need any approval from anybody at all. And that's a revolutionary aspect. Just register yourself so you know who is flying and what kind of data they are collecting. Of course, at the same time, our startups and our industry working in geospatial data, which is such a huge, huge sector, have been totally empowered, which is based on a simple idea that whatever is globally available, very easily, that data should not be restricted to Indian citizens or companies or entities, whether government or private. So we know that a whole lot of this geospatial data at a certain resolution is available to anybody. So clearly, we cannot have these very old-fashioned requirements like you should not take photo here, you should not do that. All that stuff is totally gone. And so, of course, the data below a certain or above a certain resolution should be available to Indian companies preferentially, because a whole lot of it comes from taxpayers' money. The data which is with the government, it should become available with the ease of access. And this is going to do great things to startups in this particular sector. Not just this particular sector, because you need digital geospatial data, whether it is for smart cities, tagging our assets, getting there, planning anything at all, and building applications, whether it is related to predictions of flood, whether it is prediction to any kind, disaster management, what have you. So, a whole lot of applications are going to be built on this. And today's technology basically allows you to have digital data, geospatial data at an accuracy of 5 centimeters. So you can imagine the business is going to generate a very direct impact of this. Is There's a new scheme announced by PM, which is called Swamitva. Swamitva is such an ambitious undertaking in digital era, in the digital businesses, as to we cannot even imagine today. I'll tell you what it is. And in fact, it's something very unique to India. I do not know of any other country which is undertaking digital mapping at this accuracy and scale, which means you see in rural areas and even many semi-urban areas, people don't have papers for their land holdings, what is called patta. People don't have ownership papers for their land, and it's forever in dispute. So now our mapping actually is going down to the level of what was handled by, these things, patwaris, tehsildar. basically getting down to the level of individual plots with an accuracy of 5 to 10 centimeters. And so, what's that going to do? First of all, half the court cases are going to disappear, and there will be a whole lot of applications which are built on this data, which would be available to Indian companies with sufficient accuracy. Now, at the same time, people can now go to bank and take loan against their ownership papers, which means it totally empowers our rural society in ways which are totally unprecedented. So, in fact, there would be flow of capital from urban to rural, and usually it was the other way around because there were not opportunities in rural areas for the capital. But now, with getting bank loans and investing them and so on, there are going to be huge transformations that become possible. So it's just one example of digital empowerment, which happens through government policies. It happens through rules and regulations, less regulations, which make it possible to be totally digital in every possible way. Now, of course, there are many issues related data localization, the flow of data, the sharing of data, the use of data, building upon data. All of these are the challenges and opportunities that our startups can totally leverage. Now, as we know that every sector is impacted by digital data and building upon it the applications, and some of these sectors and applications are being considered by you today, which are related to education. And of course, during the time of COVID-19, we have seen the very important role which is played in education by digital means. Of course, one thing that always comes to my mind, like meetings like this that we are meeting, uh, the kind of platforms that we use for these digital meetings, is still have not evolved a great deal compared to Skype, for example, that we have been using for 2 decades or something like that. The progress there has been rather slow. In other words, the experience we have interacting with each other on these platforms, and of course, for education, special platforms have evolved, which are much better, which allow greater degree of interaction and the workflow and so on. But still, I think even for meetings of this kind, if we were to have more 3D virtual platforms, which give more realistic feeling in being with other people and interacting with them, stuff like that. So there's a lot of scope there in digital applications. Let me give you just one or two more examples about what's happening through DST related to digital technologies and related to their relation with the startups ecosystem. We initiated a mission on cyber physical systems last year. This is worth about 4,000 crore rupees. It has already established 25 hubs of cyber physical systems, which includes everything. So it's really the AI universe, cyber physical systems where the machine is working with cyber and digital elements, basically intelligent machine, whether it's Industry 4.0, whether it is IoT, robotics, cobotics, digital, the data analytics. So all of these 25 hubs, they have different expertise and they are looking at different sectors and different applications. So the good thing about these hubs, 25 of them, as I said, each one of that hub is a end-to-end ecosystem. What that means is they work on basic R&D, they also work on applied R&D, technology development, and connect with the industry at the other end, and also have an incubator which is dedicated to the theme that they are looking at. So that this makes it basically a holistic entity. So historically, when we set up these centers in IITs and all that, basically they are inward looking. Inward looking, I mean, they are either focusing on basic R&D or maybe making some prototypes and stuff, but they stop there. This one is very different. In fact, these hubs are Section 8 companies. So there's another revolution, if you would, that's happening, which means we want these hubs to be totally at arm's length with the government. They are given all the flexibility to work with the industry. They have been delegated powers to work with anybody they like. They can give money to industry. They can receive money from industry. They can call people from abroad, give them the salary at that level, whatever, by its professionally managed Section 8 company, in which the board consists of one third people from industry, one third people from academia and R&D, and one third people from the line ministries of the central government, which have interest in those technologies or uptake of those technologies. So basically, is the triple helix working together, and we have seen the power of this triple helix of the industry, academia, and government working together. We saw the power of it in COVID-19 times. In fact, when the first wave started, we did a mapping of all the startups to see which one of them could produce ventilators, PPEs, N95 masks, new diagnostics, what have you. And over 100 startups were specifically supported for these products and technologies. And as we have seen, I'm so happy to report that all of them actually delivered. More than 3 dozen products are already in the market, despite all the constraints and despite all like supply lines, what have you, everything locked down, people not being there. Despite all that, that they succeeded beyond our wildest dreams tells me that our weakness has not been so much in that we can't do it. Our weakness has been in defining a worthwhile problem and having a co-ownership of that problem, and defining very clearly what is it that we want to make, how we want to make it, what are the parameters that we need in that product, what is the
True.
kind of price level that we are looking at, and then everybody comes together spontaneously because they feel they co-own that problem, if you would. And so if we go forward with that mantra, I haven't any doubt that that our startup movement would gain speed and scale and weight that really is required at this point. Many other policies are being worked on, which would further empower our startup sector. Um, I would just conclude by saying, what is the next, idea? So now I pointed out that DST is supporting 140 incubators, maybe 3,500 tech startups in those spaces. But is that enough? I mean, of course, there is a Atal Innovation Mission and there is a mighty incubators. If you include all of that, is that enough? Right? Certainly not. And so the traditional model of dealing with the startups actually would not allow them to be scaled up to 5x or 10x in the next 5 years. There are limitations on traditional models of incubating a startup. And so that particular model, while it has been somewhat successful, would not carry forward in the future because it cannot be scaled up to 10x in 5 years. And this is what we want to do. So it's an ambitious goal. What I want is that next 5 years that we should really be looking at 25,000 tech startups supported by different schemes of DST. And to do that, we have to go into a massively distributed model of startups and entrepreneurship. Okay, so that's maybe theme for some other discussion and some other session. So I would conclude there because I just got reminded that I have to be in another meeting. I would have loved actually to go on and interact with all these, young, smart minds, deep minds who know so much more about the startups than I do, so that, I also learn something about it. But unfortunately, not today. Thank you very much for being with us. And I wish the sessions all the very best going forward today. Thank you.